76, 76.
Hello and welcome along to episode 20 of the Tennis Asia podcast. And on this year-ending edition, we talk the prestigious Tennis Asia Top 10 of 24, identifying the 10 players from across the region who have impressed us most over the last 12 months. If we have time after that, we'll touch on the ongoing Next Gen finals featuring Jerry Shang, and because tennis never stops, briefly the ITF in Bali as well. And joining me, of course, to navigate our way through this top 10 is Mr. Tennis Asia himself, Eddie McGee. Eddie, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's been a little break for us, quite a long break, actually. And to be honest,
4 weeks, yeah.
It's been nice in a way, just to sort of not constantly be thinking about the next match. But it's good that we've been able to do this and think back on what's been and on some of the players that we've covered or maybe haven't covered so much, even because some things happened this year before we started the podcast. We only started it in, when was it?
April.
April, yeah. So
April, just after Busan.
so yeah, we get a chance to talk about that.
And our methods they're absolutely scientific. They're absolutely foolproof. They've been run into the Tennis Asia supercomputer, i.e., you pick them. The results have been audited by a big four firm, as they would have to be, or at least Paul, who used to do the 48 Shades football podcast. He did actually used to work for PwC about 15 years ago. I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, it's fine." So we'll take that as a big four sign off. But without further messing about, let's start. We've just done a top 10. We've put male players and female players together to make a consolidated top 10. We'll go in reverse order. We're going to start with number 10 and aged 22 from Thailand, a product of the American college system, which is actually going to be quite a recurring theme, I think, tonight. She's reached a career high of, I believe, around about 132 this year. Who am I talking about?
You are talking about none other than Tada Mananchaya Sawangkau, who is 22-year-old player on the up from Thailand. Yes, we get a player from Thailand at number 10 in our top 10 players of the year. Yeah, interesting. I mean, obviously, because to be honest, like obviously we're covering Asian tennis. We tend to see so many Chinese players and Japanese players, right? But
Right.
less so much the Thai players. But yeah, nice to have her here at number 10. And I just felt that she deserved it based on the fact that, yeah, I think she just sort of maybe one of those ones that sort of took people by surprise a little bit in terms of, she started the year at the very start of the year. She was ranked number 266 in the WTA rankings, and then reached as high as 130 this year. So obviously that's a massive jump, about 130 places in the rankings. And it's not just about, the rise in the rankings, which is obviously impressive itself, but also, I mean, some of the performances and the matches that she played at the higher levels as well. So, when it came to the Asian swing, it's where she actually qualified for her first WTA tournament in Hua Hin, which is in her home country in Thailand. And yeah, she also was able to qualify for her first WTA 1000 tournament in Beijing. And what was most impressive about that was that, and it was certainly what really caught my eye in terms of sort of her ability and perhaps where she could maybe go, because I felt it was clear in that match, although she lost like 6-4, 6-1 to Arina Sabalenka, which, a lot of better players have lost worth.
Top 10 players will lose worse than that.
Yeah. So, but she fought hard, especially in that first set, and it was clear that she's a tough competitor, and she's definitely a strong athlete. just tough in the rallies, moves well, and yeah, that certainly bodes well for the modern athlete in tennis. And um, yeah,
She
she
is another one who's
also
come through the American college system. I think she was University of Oklahoma. I think we're seeing this more and more as well, not just with Americans. We're seeing it with a lot of British players, and also from this part of the world. So they sort of emerge out of the college system onto the tour, sort of almost fully developed.
yeah, I mean, it certainly gives them a big advantage in terms of um, because you know, in talking in generally, generally, I don't think it's easy for players to step into the game at the age of 18, 19,
Mm.
especially if you're not, you know, obviously some of these big players that are obviously going to be uh, very, very good, even from that young age, they recognize probably going to be top 100, top 50 players, right? You know, they're players that have got a lot
Right.
of the resources, maybe the backing, uh, and sort of coaches around them. But then, you know, not all players have those resources, especially players like in Thailand. And yeah, being able to get like a scholarship, which many, that's what these players can get when they go to the college in US, and they get to play competitive tennis against high level players in an environment of, similar to Davis Cup, really, but they're playing against the
High
other
pressure,
schools.
hostile atmospheres. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, with that coaching in it, but then maybe not the sort of persistent pressure that you would have on the tour immediately to succeed if you were to just step into the tour and start playing those ITF events, which I imagine
Yeah.
is probably mentally tough at the beginning. And yeah, but obviously, she didn't win many. You know, she only won one title actually. It was the start of the year in Nonpaburi, an ITF title, and then she finished runner up later on in the US in Lexington. But for her, I think what was just, despite that, it's sometimes that can sort of come down to luck. But what was
Mm.
most impressive is it was just like how well she did actually when it came down to, because she obviously built up her ranking on the ITF tour. And when she got up to a certain point, then she was able to try and get into qualification for the WTA events. And yeah, that was just what was impressive for her. She almost qualified for the US Open, didn't quite make
Mm.
it. But moving on, yeah, she qualified for the Huahan, and then she also qualified to Beijing as a WTA 1000. She came through Habino, Bektas, and then Zarina Diaz, who we've talked about in this
Yes,
podcast
right.
before, in straight sets before that match against Sabalenka. And then most impressive, yeah, back to back in Guangzhou and Jiangxi Open. Back to back WTA quarterfinals. Beat Yuan Zhui, first top 50 win for her. Obviously, yeah, she's an established player. You met actually.
Indeed.
We've
I
got,
haven't
we've got the
forgotten.
we've got the photo out there somewhere. And then yeah,
Yeah.
Lucia Bronzetti. So she came through
Right.
and she's beat some tough players. She didn't quite. Only got to semis in the last tournament in the W100 in Takasaki, but beat Alexiala there before losing to Wei Sijia. But yeah, obviously a big rise in the rankings, and it's just it's just impressive some of the performances there, and I probably she'll have a chance now to qualify for the Australian Open. It will be interesting to see how she does, and I think she's starting off in a WTA 125 event to start off the year. So yeah, something to look forward to. And
Excellent. Okay, so yeah, number 10, Manachaya Sowanko. We better move on to number 9. And number 9 has been a breakout star in the latter half of 2024 and a new character on the tour. We like her because she plays like we do, basically, albeit a million times better. She also often looks like she's just got out of bed and straight onto the tennis court, but she's winning a lot of matches and looks like one very much for the future, but also for the present. Number 9 from Japan is.
Ao Ito from Japan, and yeah, only 20 years of age, but she's certainly made waves this year, and actually risen through the rankings quite dramatically. Yeah, so yeah, there we can see her on screen there. Yeah, so yeah, she's got a really unorthodox style. There's no doubt about that, and she's got a really creative, unpredictable style that is, led to her getting a lot of fans already, even though she's
Mm.
relatively new on the WTA tour. Um, yeah, I mean, she was actually inside the top 400, maybe like 380 in the world, but she reached 126 this
Mm.
year. So quite a dramatic rise. And yeah, she's got a really interesting style. We talked about it before her, the slice in the forehand, the drop shots, but also the change of pace and the moon balls and everything like that. So drives some players mad, but yeah, it's something it's interesting to watch when she's playing. And she's,
It certainly
on
was
the,
actually, because I mean, I don't obviously I, I don't work from home very often. I know sometimes you have the luxury to do that and have the able to have the tennis on at the time. I don't think your employer watches this, hopefully. But I remember you suddenly messaging me saying, "You've got to switch this on. You've got to switch this on. You've got to watch out. You've got to watch this player." And it was her, and it was like,
Mm.
this is really really refreshing. This is really fun to see.
Yeah, exactly. And for her to be able to rise so well and play that sort of brand of tennis is just really cool to see. And when everyone is increasingly just hitting it hard and ball bashing, so to speak, from the baseline, yeah, it's a breath of fresh air. And on the ITF tour this year, she's reached an incredible 7 finals
Right.
and won three of them, including most recently the 100 title at Takasaki in Japan. So that was big way for her to finish the year. And not only that, I mean, she made her WT debut at the Japan Open and came through qualifying and went all the way to the semis and got wins against Sophia Kenin and Elisabetta Cocciaretto. And yeah, just obviously really interesting little player, and yeah, just has risen. And she tends to play with a smile on her face. She seems to like really enjoy what
Mm.
she's doing on the court, whether she loses the point or not. She seems to enjoy just the fact that she almost won. Sometimes she's almost, it looks like, well, I enjoyed that, but I'll do better next time. And yeah, I mean, yeah, just really cool player to watch. And yeah, I'm actually looking forward to seeing her much more on the WTA tour next year.
With tougher opponents and hopefully more progress. Okay, moving on to number 8, and we come to our first male player on the list. And well, compared with numbers 10 and number 9, I guess he's a relative veteran on the tour, really. But still a breakout year for him, shooting up the rankings very early on in 2024 due to an Australian Open appearance from India.
Yeah, so the player that we're talking about is someone that we have talked about before on the podcast. But I mean, I guess he's sort of let's see, he sort of fell away like a little bit towards the latter half of the year for
Mm.
sure in terms of his ranking. But yeah, the player that we're talking about, of course, is Sumit Nagal, uh, um, India's number one player on the ATP side. And yeah, if I see if I can just get his image up. Yeah, of course, there we go. So we've got Sumit Nagal. Basically, he started off the year in superb fashion because it was in Australia that he managed at the Australian Open in Melbourne to qualify for the first time. His only previous, he had played at the Australian Open before in the main round,
Mm.
main draw, I should say, but that was with a wild card. But he came through all of his qualifying matches, and then his first round match against Bublik, who was ranked 27 in the world at the time, and he won that in straight sets.
Mm.
So all of his qualifying matches and that match in straight sets. And yeah, and he had a bit of a struggle, if I remember, even just to qualify, because he sort of had to take a medical timeout sort of as he was just before he was about to serve for the match, but he managed to get through that, and then obviously coming through a player of Bublik's quality in that fashion was remarkable, mainly because he's a player from India that he's the first Indian man to beat a seed at a major since 1989, which was quite a statistic. And obviously ridiculously long time for that not to have happened. And I think especially good for Nagaal's point of view, because he'd had problems, he had hip injury and stuff, and he had to take time out from like 2022. Had to sort of build his ranking up last year. And then, the start of this year, just a great way to start it. And of course, he excels on clay. But doing well there on hard courts, but he can play in hard courts as well. And he won an ATP Challenger title not long after that in Chennai and in his own country. And then later, that was on hard court as well. And then later in Heilbronn in Germany, right, he got another ATP Challenger title. So 2 Challenger titles this year. But in clay season, he also got his first Masters 1000 win in Monte Carlo. And that was not only his first Masters win, but also the first ever for an Indian player at Monte Carlo. So pretty crazy statistic there. And I remember he lost to Holger Rune, but he gave it a good go. He won a set, I think. So ended up getting his career best ranking in July of number 68. So entering the top 70 in the world is obviously a great achievement. And he fell away towards the end of this year. But he's still within the top 100. And I think, just given his, where he'd come from, I think, to be able to get to that ranking, the struggles that he had was a great achievement for him and for Indian tennis.
Definitely big. Yeah, obviously, cricket is the dominant sport by a mile in India. I did see India now has its second world chess champion as of last week. They do always say that tennis and chess are actually very, very similar in terms of like the brain power involved. At least I was told that when I was a kid. Okay, moving on. Number 7, and I'm stunned. I'm actually quite stunned at this number 7. I really expected you to put this particular player, if not on top, at least at number 2. It did seem like we spent probably the first 8 or 9 podcasts pretty much talking about her almost exclusively. She went on a remarkable winning streak in the first first part of the year, which we did obviously chronicle in some detail week in, week out. The Machine. Tell us who she is, and also tell us why isn't she higher on this list?
Yes, there she is. There's Mayuka Ichijima, now 23. Born in Malaysia, actually, but she is Japanese and represents Japan. And remarkable year. Of course, we talked about her. She was our player of the week. And even at that point, like early on in our podcast back in the spring, she went on to achieve much bigger things, perhaps bigger than we'd even thought she was capable of. And it was really a remarkable run in that spring period that basically cemented her place on this list. A remarkable run that ended with her making her debut in the main draw at Roland Garros. It started in April in Spain where she won her first W100 title, and that was on the clay course. She then flew to Japan, and I think the second tournament there, she won another 100 title in Gifu, but it was on hard courts. Immediately after winning that, she flew straight back to Europe. And then ended up winning a 75 title on clay that was in Slovakia, right? And then she went to Madrid and won another 100 title again in clay.
On clay as well, but on a very different kind of clay that they had there. So
that's
yeah,
true.
It was quite remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, so Madrid at the altitude as well plays a little bit differently than a normal clay court would in terms of the ball flies a bit more. So you could say in sort of that she played on or three
Three different
different courts
surfaces. Yeah.
or potentially four, because the first time was in Zaragoza, which would have been um, more closer to sea level, right? So yeah, so she basically won 3 titles in 3 consecutive weeks from that Gifu, and then in Slovakia, and then the last one in Spain. 3 consecutive weeks, 3 titles, 2 continents, 2 surfaces, or potentially more if you want to get, that's obviously ridiculous. And then by the time she got to Paris, she said, I'm not done yet. So she went and qualified for the French Open. She didn't drop a set, I think, right? And then she came, didn't drop a set in the qualifying matches, and then won her first round mat in straight sets, probably even, more quickly. And then obviously the run had to come to an end, but she was on 19 consecutive wins, absolutely ridiculous at any level of tennis. And then, had to lose to Arina Sabalenka in the second round in straight sets. It was 6-2, 6-2. But hey, it's Sabalenka, and you have to say, she obviously did brilliantly. She's got the game for clay. She's got a good forehand for that will be effective on that surface, and obviously feel comfortable there, being able to use that. And just an excellent rise that put her obviously because of that her ranking shot up, and then she started to enter the bigger tournaments. So in terms of like wins, they started to decrease a little bit. I mean, she came through some qualifying events to get into the WTA. She did make her Wimbledon debut, and then she got to the US Open, where she did get a win. And ultimately, she ended up as the Japanese #1, leapfrogging, getting ahead of Naomi Osaka, who, obviously nice for her to be the Japanese #1, and she got a career high ranking of 55, having started the year ranked 172. So big rise, great achievement, great bunch of wins. I mean, to win 3 100 titles in 1 year, excellent, really, really good. And just a case now whether she can see if she can actually,
maintain that ranking,
maintain that,
because to get the
a lot of points to defend there, but going to be interesting.
We'll see what 2025 holds for the machine. Moving on to the final one in our the first 5, number 6 in our rankings. And I said, why isn't she higher? Well, that's because there's 6 who we think have been, just a little bit more impressive this year. Number 6 is another product of the American college system, and really of the American system in its entirety before she switched allegiance to Japan. She made her name in doubles, but this year switched to focus on singles. And my word, it has paid off, hasn't it?
Yes, we are, of course, talking about Ena Shibahara, who is, as you mentioned, she's got the American connection. She was born and raised in California, but she represents Japan, and she has done for a while. I mean, she speaks fluent Japanese, and she's had a brilliant year so far. And well, I mean, let's talk first about how she is primarily was a doubles specialist, right?
Yeah.
And there she is. Made the decision at the start of this year. Okay, I want to give singles a go, which is obviously quite risky in terms that she was a very successful doubles player, reached as high as number 4 in the world, still finished within the top 15 last year in the doubles circuit. So, but she said, it's not that much a risk. If it doesn't work out, I can just go back to the doubles. And She did still continue to play a little bit of doubles, but was focusing on the singles this year. It started off really well as well, because she started off, played 2 ITF events and got to the semi-finals back to back after coming through qualifying. So hit the ground running. And yeah, another product of that American college circuit as well. She played at UCLA. She's obviously had she had maybe high expectations for herself, in her career, from that, from when she was a teenager. She obviously has talent, but she talked about, it was interesting because I remember reading about, I read something about how she was saying, because obviously the pandemic happened, and she said it was never her plan to sort of to stay within doubles. But she'd already built a ranking, and she was higher up the doubles by the time, I think she was near the top 100 by the time COVID happened. So when it came back to playing again, she's just sort of continued with that, because that allowed her to get into the big tournaments and that, and so singles took a back seat. But at the age of 26 now, she's decided, okay, let's give singles a go, and those back-to-back semi-finals, and then she soon followed up with an ITF title of her own, and also finished runner-up at an event in Tokyo, 100 event. And by the summer, she'd won a lot of matches and was able to make her WTA Tour singles debut and eventually get her WTA win. And I remember, in the summer as well, she qualified for, was it Nottingham? She came through qualies and played against Emma Raducanu. Lost in straight sets, but I think the second set she showed that she has something and made Raducanu a bit nervous getting over the line there. She definitely can excel in some of these quicker surfaces, and she'd won a lot of matches. I mentioned she got runner-up there in the W100 tournament, but it's kind of crazy, Lynn. She got her ranking up from 548 at the start of the year, so she managed to sneak in. I guess she got up near the top 200, and she just sneaked into the qualifying tournament for the US Open. So first chance to qualify for a major, and what does she do? She only goes and qualifies, and amazingly, she did that. Ariana Hurtado, I think she beat. I was actually there at the US Open. I watched her qualify. She qualified and dropped to her knees, and obviously great moment for her to do that in her first attempt in singles. And then she came through her first round match in 3 sets. It was a really long match. Incredible match against Daria Savo. I think it was over 3 hours long, and I think Daria.
Were you at that one as well?
No, I was not. I was busy watching other matches, unfortunately. But it was the one. I think Savo actually smashed her racket at the end. Obviously, it was a tough match to lose, but the reward for Shibahara was to play Iga Swiatek in the second round on Arthur Ashe Stadium. Obviously, given where she started at the start of the year, to be able to do that and play in such a big stage must have been quite amazing for her. I mean, she only won 1 game in that match.
Yes.
But actually went on. Some of the games went a bit long. It wasn't.
Some deuces,
could have been worse, but obviously, it was between tough ass to even be competitive against Iga. And really, it's just a remarkable rise that by the end of the year, she'd reached a career high ranking of 132. So you consider if she started at a ranking of 548, that's 400 spots in the rankings. That's kind of ridiculous, for a so-called doubles specialist. And then and then top it all off, she represented Japan for the first time in singles at the Billie Jean King Cup finals. And she won her match, and she in fact won both her singles matches that she played. And those happened to be her best wins by ranking in her career. She beat
Right.
Elena Gabriela Ruz, and then it was also who did she beat? Was it Cocciaretto against Italy? Yeah.
Against
So
Italy in the set, yeah.
yeah, so had to come back from a sit down. Yeah, just really, yeah, perhaps that college tennis environment maybe helped her a little bit playing in that Davis Cup. But yeah, I thought she was really impressive beforehand and just sort of, obviously under pressure, just played really well. And yeah, impressive. To be interesting to see if she's able to sort of kick on next year and continue that. I mean, she's obviously up near top 100. She'll have a chance to qualify for the Australian Open. And perhaps if she can get into these bigger tournaments, maybe the first half of the year, she's got a bit of a chance to sort of build up her ranking a bit further. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how she does, and yeah.
And an example of rolling the dice and paying off. We've reached the halfway point in the rankings. I just want to touch on a little bit on those who didn't actually make the cut of the top 10. No place for Triple Z, Zhang Zichen. No luck for Rei Sakamoto. Hard luck, Hadi Habib. Makes history for Lebanon, but that doesn't impress Eddie. No place for Alex Ayala, Zhang Shuai, Naomi Osaka, who I think has risen in the rankings more than anybody this year, and none even for Kasidit Samaraj, who will be playing in the Australian Open in January, having won the Asia wildcard. Any of those could count themselves unlucky to miss out on the top 10?
Yeah, I mean, I feel really bad about perhaps leaving some of these. I mean, Hedi Habib, he won a challenger title. Was the first player to win a challenger title from Lebanon, and obviously that's personally it's a brilliant achievement. But he wasn't the only player to win titles of that nature, and I just had to look at sort of how much they'd improved and risen, which is why I didn't quite, I think he deserves a mention for sure. But yeah, obviously he didn't make it. And Alex Ayala, she won a 100 title as well, but I think it was more that given where she started at the start of the year, I have to consider, how big of a rise was it. I mean, she has done pretty well, but I just felt like some of the other players in this list pipped her. If we're talking about another player I left
exceeding expectations and things like that.
Yeah, that's exactly with Zhang Zichen. Yeah, felt bad as well leaving him out. I mean, he reached the final. He finished runner up in Hangzhou, right? Obviously, that's a great run to get to the final of an ATP 250, and he also reached number 31 in the world, which, by the way, is the highest ranked player for a player from his nation. 31 for a player from China. So, but given where because he was already well in, up near the top 50 at the start of the year, thereabouts, right, or even within, and
right.
I just felt, that. Yeah, he hadn't done, if he'd won an ATP title, I think he would just definitely perhaps deserve a place in it. But I have to think about where they're coming from. He'd already established himself, and I just felt like he hadn't done quite enough. I mean, I could have also talked about he did well in the doubles alongside your man, the Czech player. God, why I can't remember his name now. What's his name? Makac. Yeah, Thomas Makac. So
of course,
he plays.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, but you got
shows how much I watch doubles.
But yeah, another player left out, Sarah Saito, young player.
Right. Yeah.
She won a 100 title as well, and she has risen quite far in the rankings. But I felt, probably. It's a good chance for her to make the list next year. She's got a big potential. I don't really think she's got going yet. Same with Rei Sakamoto. He's barely played on the professional tour after stepping up from the juniors. He's still only 18, but he did get a challenger title at home just at the end of the year there.
Very recently, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be really harsh. It wasn't maybe sort of the toughest run there for him. But yeah, obviously to do it at 18 is great. I also think, though, perhaps we're going to be able to see much more of him next year. And if we do have a list next year, he is highly likely to make it. And then, of course, Kasadit Samrej of Thailand. We did talk about him before. And yeah, he played in the Asia Pacific Wildcard Playoff. I wrote an article about him and Zhang Shuai coming through that playoff and qualifying. For him, it was amazing because it's the first time for a Thai player to play in the main draw, the first Thai man to do it since I think it was 2012 when it was Danai Udomchok. Yes, so long time for Thai men to be away from, in singles anyway. Yeah, obviously that was a great achievement for him, and he did win some titles on the ITF tour. But I think he started the year about 600 in the rankings. Now he's up to top 400. I think when I had to consider everything, although that was a good achievement, I think it'd be unfair to some of the other players just to rank him. So do also think, though, he's a bit of a late bloomer. He's 23. He's got a lot of power in his game. He might be one to watch out for next year as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the article on the website, tennisasiamedia.com. Plenty there, hopefully plenty more there as well as the weeks progress. Let's go into the top 5. And obviously, Zhang Qichen, Triple Z, didn't make it. A couple of Chinese male players did, starting with number 5 in our rankings, a challenger stalwart who I think first came to our attention by winning the Seoul Challenger in 2023. He's come a long way since then, making his Grand Slam debut in New York, ending the year firmly ensconced in the top 100.
That's right. Yeah, the player that we're talking about is Bu Yunchou-Kete. Bu Yunchou-Kete, of course. But he is of Mongolian heritage, and his name we've maybe explained before that you see it written as Bu Yunchou-Kete separately, but or Yunchou-Kete Bu, but his full name is just as one Bu Yunchou-Kete.
Right.
And I'll see if I can get his image up here, because we made a little video about him, didn't we?
That's right.
I put it up because we talked in that podcast.
Because you videoed him in Seoul last year as well.
That's right. So that was at the Challenger in Seoul, where he won in 2023. That was his first sort of big breakthrough. I'll see if I can get him up. So we made a little video for him. There he is. So that's the video. You can watch that on YouTube. The Rise of Bu Yunchou-Kete. And yeah, so basically 22 years old. After he won that title in Seoul, for the next 12 months, he sort of didn't really match that level. He didn't win a title in the challengers, and although he wasn't terrible, but he just the results there in terms of consistency wasn't there. And but around the spring this year, he started to get better results, and he finished a runner-up in Gwangju here in Korea, and then he won the title in his home country in Wuxi. And then he followed that up with good results in the North American hardcourt swing over in during the summer, and he got a title in Granby in Canada, and it was a runner-up in Chicago. So a nice little run of form there before heading into the US Open, where he actually did qualify for the first time at a major. He beat Aslan Karatsev from a set down. He lost that first set 6-1, fought well to come back and win it. I also saw that match in New York, and I've actually got that footage there. I mean, I don't know if we can actually get it up here, if we can find it here. I'll see if we can get that little. You can listen to it. Yeah. So Buyan Choketi
actually qualified for the first time at a major. He qualified for the US Open. So I think he lost out to Casper Ruud in the first round.
Yeah, so there you go. You can see him celebrating. Obviously, that was him winning that title, and yeah, just an excellent achievement for him. Unfortunately, he had to play Casper Ruud, wasn't it, in the first round, and yeah, he lost that in straight sets. It was always going to be a tough ask for him, but you know, still amazing for him to do that for the first time. And then, of course, we head into the Asian swing on the ATP Tour during the autumn, and with a bunch of tournaments in his home country. And yeah, really, he just exceeded expectations, didn't he? I mean, back-to-back semi-finals at 250 and then 500 level in Hangzhou and Beijing, respectively. In that run to the 500 semi-final, he beat Lorenzo Musetti and the world number 6 at the time, Andrei Rublev, in straight sets, coming through both of them in straight sets, to make the semis, and then lost out to Jannik Sinner. You know, no shame in losing to him. I mean, he still took him to...
Sinner was very, very complimentary of him as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, he took him, after losing that first set, 6-2, he took him to a tiebreak in that second set, which is obviously not easy against Sinner. And yeah, I mean, in that one tournament, getting his first top 20 and first top 10 win. Yeah, in May, he was ranked 239 in the world. Now, he's at a career high ranking, or he got, 65. So that's going to set him up now nicely. Yeah, he didn't have too many results after that outside of China, but he did reach an ATP quarterfinal, which is, you know, it's not bad at all. So yeah, now he'll go obviously to he'll be playing in Hong Kong, which remains to be seen whether Tennis Asia will be there, but you know, perhaps a chance for me to see him there, and yeah, then of course go to the Australian Open. Definitely got big chances to do well on these hard courts, and just a great athlete. And now he's got the skills, the serve and the ground stroke to sort of match it. Going to see if he can sort of be more consistent, but you know, he's perhaps a bit of a late bloomer, because you know he didn't really play any professional tennis, probably partly to do with COVID, but between the ages of 18 and 20, so about 2-year period, you know, obviously a key period for development for a lot of players. So he's perhaps just catching up with it now, and yeah, just a great effort. He's exceeded expectations, and definitely another one to watch.
Excellent. Well, you just mentioned Hong Kong, and all year we thought we had been building up to Coleman Wong taking his place at the next gen finals. That didn't quite go to plan, as the Coleman coaster, as it's known, had more ups and downs than Space Mountain in the end, and it didn't quite work out for Coleman. There is Tennis Asia interest in the next gen finals, though, in the shape of Shang Junsheng, Jerry Shang, our number 4.
Yes, Shang Junsheng, or Jerry Shang, as he's also known. There he is on the screen. Yeah, just obviously 19 years of age. He's one of the hottest prospects really in tennis, because of his age, and you know, there's a big potential there. You know, we talked about how he comes from a background. I think he's from Beijing. He's come from a background, an athletic background. Both of his parents were professional athletes. His dad was a football player, and his mum, and his mum was a squash player. Was it? So, yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, sets him up well. But yeah, I mean,
it's a different background from Buyan Choketi. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a very different background. Yes. So, yeah, Buya came from more humble beginnings, and but yeah, that's why it makes this sport interesting. You know, everyone's got different stories. It's never easy, regardless, to sort of make it, whether you've got
You've still got to have the talent and the work ethic. Yeah,
yeah, you've got it exactly. You know, an individual sport like this, and Shang is definitely he's got that. He's got he's a relaxed personality. He's curiously he's definitely got the great attitude, and it started off brilliant. We mentioned Hong Kong. He played at Hong Kong, and I saw him there at the start of the year. Made the semi-finals there, beat Francis Tiafoe on straight sets 6-4, 6-4 in the quarters, and then took a set off Andrei Rublev in the semi-finals. So, yeah, I think it was a wild card entry there, more than justifying it there by reaching the semis. Yeah, really, really excellent. I think he might have just still been 18 then as well. So, yeah, he's not the biggest. I think he's 5'11", 180 centimeters or so. But he's obviously maybe lacking that bit of power compared to some of the other players. But yeah, he's no doubt he hits that forehand very cleanly. He's got good movement, and he's got the skills. He's a quite dynamic player. And long after, I think he reached the third round at the Australian Open, didn't he? And he had to retire against he wasn't fit against Alcaraz, right? But no shame in that. And
did he beat Sumit Nagal in the Australian Open, or am I completely misremembering that? I might be misremembering that.
It was in the second round, was it?
Second round,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah. I think that's right. Yeah. So because obviously Sumit won his first round match, didn't he? That we talked about against Bublik. Yeah. So I think you are remembering that correctly. He came from a set down, Shang, and won that in 4. Yeah, unfortunately, just didn't have. He wasn't fit. He didn't have enough in the tank for that match against Alcaraz, but he followed it up, qualifying not long after that for Indian Wells, and then winning the first round match against Thompson, Jordan Thompson. So, first Masters wins came for him in Miami, Indian Wells, and Madrid. So, and Madrid, it was where he beat Corentin Moutet in 4 hours, one of the matches of the year. Came through that, and then he lost to Davidovich Fokina in the second round. And that was a bit of a controversial decision there, wasn't it? I think with the double bounce that went the way of his opponent.
That's right. Yeah.
But he followed up, winning quite a lot of matches on the tour. He reached another semi-final in Atlanta, defeated Ben Shelton. You got to remember his age here as well. I mean, and then third round again at the US Open, he lost to Casper Ruud in 5. So Casper Ruud taking out both the Chinese players on our list here. But that was a bit of a shame for Shang. He was 2 sets up, and then he lost. He fell away quite dramatically, especially in the next 2 sets. And to lose obviously from 2 sets up is never nice. But then when it came back to his home country, he got his first ATP title in Chengdu, the ATP 250, and he beat Japanese tennis legend in Kei Nishikori, another Tennis Asia player of Kazakhstan.
Didn't make the top 10, unfortunately.
No, another one we left out. Yeah, to be fair to Nishikori, he did end the season well because he won that Challenger event. But perhaps we'll be seeing even more of him next year. But Shang beat Nishikori, beat Bublik, and then in the final he beat Lorenzo Musetti, a top 20 player, in straight sets as well. And it was a really excellent performance. To do that at such a young age, I think it definitely deserves recognition. He's only second player from China to win an ATP title in singles, and it started the year 183 in January, and then made it into the top 50. Basically establishing himself as a player that's at the ATP level, and qualified as well for the next gen ATP finals in Riyadh, which is going on. And shamefully, we're doing this podcast while his match is on.
While he's playing, yes.
Now, I think he's in a 4th set. Is that right? Or Yes.
Well, of course, because next gen they play those 4-game sets.
Yeah, that's right.
He's a strong favourite to win this game, and I would guess superficially he'd be second favourite to qualify out of the group. So, is he
yeah, I'd imagine it between, on paper, you'd maybe think, between him and Mickelson.
Yeah.
But it looks like he might be about to lose here. Actually, I'm not sure. I don't know if I've got the proper score up here. Yeah, so he's down 2-1. But yeah, obviously 2 more matches to play against Basferretti and Mickelson. So see what happens there. But yeah, as we say, probably, he doesn't win this, but his trajectory at the moment, he's probably going to be playing. Even if he does qualify next year, it might not. He might choose to skip that. He might have reached the higher level by then. Right. So we'll see what happens. But obviously, great year for him.
Indeed. Okay, so Jerry Shang at number 4. That leaves us with 3 more left. And moving on to number 3, and indeed number 2. Now, I'm a little bit like most tournament organisers and completely overlook doubles. Though I have to say my appreciation for doubles has grown this year in terms of actually attending the live tournaments. And it's quite enjoyable. And evening doubles, you know when the game's going to finish because you know there's only going to be the 2 sets and then possibly the super breaker. And I'm quite impressed that you have put in a couple of doubles players in the top 3. And at number 3, well, she's the idol of Ai Ito, even though Ai Ito has apparently never watched her play. She's 38 years old, and what a year it has been.
Yeah. Yeah, so here she is. Yes, Hsieh Su-wei. Obviously a legend of Asian tennis, of just she's been around for a long time. And first reached number 1 on the doubles circuit back in 10 years ago, actually, in 2014, and she's still going. But she had a bit of time out and came back last year. I mean, she did a superb year last year. She won 2 Grand Slam titles. First in Roland Garros and then at Wimbledon. Yeah, so she made a sort of a triumphant return last year. This year also started off really well for her. And I think it has to be recognized. I mean, obviously we talked about her being a doubles player. I think maybe for this list, if I was going to include doubles player, they'd have to have done something fairly special. And I feel she won her 7th major and her maiden Australian Open title alongside Elise Mertens. And then they followed that up with a tremendous performance in Indian Wells, which is, a WTA 1000 tournament. Didn't drop a set on the way to lifting the trophy. And that cemented her place as the number 1 player again. At the age of 38, 10 years after the first time she did it. I think it might be the 3rd time that she's actually been number 1. But and obviously, in terms of in the women's game, the women's doubles, she didn't do too much after that. I mean, she reached a semi-final at Wimbledon, which isn't bad. But obviously, considering the year before she won 2 slams, you could say maybe not quite as good in that front, but getting to number 1 has to be recognised. Then she won 2 mixed double slams at the Australian Open and at Wimbledon with Jan Zielinski. That's the Polish player, right? And so done the mixed doubles, won 2 slams. Really, I mean, still been a tremendously good year for her. She's still in the top 10 at the moment, I think. So she made the WTA finals. I think with the ranking of 7. So I think one match there. I didn't get through the group stage, but I mean, still for her to be doing it at this stage. I mean, should also mention at the start of the year she played a few singles matches and retired from singles. Right. But I mean, she is a legend of just obviously the way that she plays, unorthodox style. unpredictable player. I mean, that's why, some people have compared Ito to her. A little bit different in a way, but, I think it deserves to be recognized that she's still going out there. And amazing for her to get, 7 titles in the women's doubles and 7 slam titles. And
even more of an honor to be named as number 3 in the Tennis Asia 10 for 24. Now we're going to continue the doubles theme. Now, never mind, Hsieh Su-wei is, I think, the same age as you. Our number 2 is older than me, which is quite impressive. And we are continuing the doubles theme. And in January, he did something quite special, age notwithstanding. Our number 2 on the list is?
There he is, Rohan Bopanna, looking...
And this isn't the Legends Tour. This is not like the seniors or anything.
Yeah, there he is. India's Rohan Bopanna, now 44 years of age, still going and still one of the top doubles players in the world. And I just felt he had to be recognized for this because it is a remarkable achievement. He started off the year alongside Matthew Ebden, who himself has had good success on the doubles tour. And Bopanna and Ebden just went all the way and decided to go and win the whole thing. And I mean, what that meant for Bopanna is that he became, not only was it his first major in the men's doubles, I mean, he'd reached the US Open final just at the end of 2023. So, he's on the good trajectory with Ebden. But then to win his first major, not only do that, but become number 1 in the
world.
Yeah, number 1 in the world at the time is age 43, the oldest first-time major winner, and also the oldest. The oldest first-time number 1, not major winner. Yeah. Right. So at the age of 43, obviously an incredible achievement, and probably quite inspiring for a lot of other doubles players who are still going. We've talked about Toshihide Matsui, who's still going at the age of 46 now, isn't it? On the Challenger Tour, still winning matches and some tournaments this year. So, and there's going to be a bunch of other players, inspiring others. Hsieh Su-wei among them, and now Bopanna, and amazing also because we talked about his being from India. An Indian player to have such a big achievement is tremendous, and it's amazing for him, especially because he's had good success on the doubles circuit in the majors. He's reached the quarterfinals or semifinals or final at the French Open, Wimbledon, and US Open. But coming into the Australian Open, the best he'd managed was the 3rd round, and then he'd been playing for 15 years in the doubles circuit. So then he just to win probably helps playing alongside an Australian when you're there, having that backing. But and then I mean, I could say didn't quite continue that level of play throughout the year. I mean, but they still got to the semi-finals at the French Open. But then in Wimbledon and US Open was the 2nd and 3rd round losses. But still also played the mixed doubles and got to the semi-finals at the US Open this year. I mean, you've got to say, I'm putting on this list taking into account his age, and obviously doubles players are older in general, but still, it's quite a brilliant achievement. And I mean, begs the question:
you talk about that inspiration thing. It is. I mean, earlier this year, shortly after it happened, I had a 9 o'clock Monday morning doubles match, and my knees. I'm 3 months younger than Bopanna. My knees on a Monday morning do not feel good, but it's like, well, if he can go out and win slams and get to world number 1, I can drag myself up to play doubles with these 3 hungover guys. So yeah, it's a huge achievement, a wonderful story, and I would say a deserved place on the list. Okay, we've come to the end. I'm just going to just recap who the top 10 were. So at number 10, we had Mananchaya Sawankao. At number 9, we had Ai Ito. Number 8 was Sumit Nagal. Number 7, Moyuka Uchijima. Number 6, Ina Shibahara. Number 5, Buyun Chaukete. Number 4, Jerry Sheng. Number 3, Shea Suwei. Number 2, Rohan Bopana. That means we are missing number 1 on the Tennis Asia 10 for 24 is...
And it is Coleman Wong. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I thought it was going to be Crystal Jang. I thought Zhang Shijang had this one in the bag this year, but
no.
She was on top of my list. Come on.
Yes, of course, it's none other than...
We know who it is.
The currently ranked number 5 player on the women's side. It's Zhang Qinwen of China. Really just a remarkable achievement for her, because she started the year at number 15 in the world, ended up number 5 in the world, just behind Jasmine Paolini. But you have to say, perhaps she could easily be considered the 4th player in the world in terms of what she's achieved. Let's just get her image up here. Yeah, so there she is, affectionately known as Queen Wen by
I
many.
thought it was going to be the image still with the label on the back of her shirt, the Uchijima match. But
yeah, that's right. Obviously,
or the karaoke one.
Yeah, that was in I think it was last year, was that? Yeah, she sang at the karaoke, or was it? But Zhang Qinwen started off the year brilliantly, right? In the Australian Open, she went all the way to the final, and unfortunately had to come up against Aryna Sabalenka and lost in straight sets. Sabalenka's done that a lot too. She's ended the runs of a lot of our Tennis Asia hopefuls.
It could be the tagline of the year. She then came up against Sabalenka, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But still, I mean, she perhaps got a bit of luck in terms of the draw opened up for her, but she still managed to come through some tough moments and get all the way to the final. So obviously that did wonders for her ranking in terms of just a tremendous for her to do that. I mean, obviously first player from China to do that for quite a while, since Li Na. And if we just look back at her results this year, obviously reaching the final there in Melbourne, runner-up. She had a little bit of difficulty after that in terms of finding the consistency of maybe the results that added expectation. In Dubai, she lost in the quarters to Swiatek, and I think didn't have too many results there. And then when it came to playing on the clay, which she should be able to do well, I think Madrid, she had to retire in the first round. She got to the quarters in Rome, but lost out to Coco, and then third round loss at the Roland Garros. Definitely she'll be wanting to have a go at that again, I think, next year, because she definitely has a chance to excel. And then obviously we go into grass season, which is not really where she is comfortable. She's going to probably have difficulty there for much of her career, if I'm being honest. But back when she got back onto clay in preparation for the Olympics, which was to be held on the grounds at Roland Garros, she went to Palermo to play a WTA 250 tournament as a warm-up. And came through remarkably. She won all her matches in straight sets until the final, where she had to play another tremendous player in Karolina Muchova. But she won that in 3 sets, and that just set her up nicely going into the big one, which is obviously the Olympics in Paris. And yeah, started off brilliantly in terms of, she came through in straight sets in her first two matches, but then she lost the first set in the round of 16 against Emma Navarro. That sort of fiery match. Had to grind out that second round tiebreak. She managed to get it done, and then stepped up and won that final set 6-1. So yeah, obviously good for her to come through that. And then she came up against Angelique Kerber in one of the matches of the year. She again lost the first set in a tiebreak. Difficult first set because she did well. She went down an early break, but then fought back well. She was making great shots. And then I think there was another exchange of breaks before the tiebreak, but yeah, it was Angelique Kerber who stepped up and showed why she was such a great player, a multiple slam winner herself. And this was, potentially Kerber's last match. It turned out to be her last match. So it was not an easy player for her to face. And obviously she's competing for Germany, a lot of Germans, people supporting her in the crowd. But yeah, Zhang did very well. She stepped up to break in that second set, got it 6-4. And then in the final set, it was a really exciting set of tennis. Both players, nice little matchup in terms of, obviously Zhang's got the serve, the big power on the forehand, that, big topspin forehand and big strokes on either side. Whereas, Kerber's, she was doing well with her serve as well, actually, but she's got more of the sort of hitting the angles and sort of redirecting pace. And yeah, it was a nice little match up there. And Angie did incredibly well, and she played like it was her potentially her last match ever. Right. And Zhang stepped up really well in that final set, and arguably that was one of her most important results of the year, because she went on to the semi-final, where if she wins, she would guarantee her a medal. But she had to play Iga Swiatek, who is the number one seed and the number one player at that time. But yeah, she got off to a flying start and took that first set 6-2, and continued that into the second set, where Swiatek did fight back a bit, but eventually Zhang got a break and took that second set 7-5. So amazing for her to get that first win over Swiatek, and on clay, where obviously Swiatek does so well and won the French Open this year. And then got to the final, and a very good performance again in straight sets against Donna Vekic to clinch an Olympic gold medal, which was big pressure for her, I'm sure, because she places, I think, particular importance for that importance. It's a huge thing for any of these players. I think Swiatek was extremely upset to lose that match, and she did end up winning a medal herself. But just like a brilliant achievement to win. This is a big title, Olympic gold medal, and it's sort of it was the start of Zhang, I would say, cementing herself as one of those top players at that elite level of the game. And after that, she ended up reaching the quarterfinals at the US Open, again losing out to Sabalenka, and it was a pretty one-sided match, that one. But she beat Donna Vekic again in that round of 16, and obviously to get to a quarterfinal shouldn't be something overlooked, and that's a good achievement. And again, she got a semi-final at WTA 1000 in Beijing. Got to the final of Wuhan, the WTA 1000, beat Paolini, ultimately much closer match. That was a great match, and also one of the, it was a great match of the year. She did win a set against Sabalenka, and and then also she won a title after that. She won the 500 title in Tokyo against Sofia Kenin in the final. She beat Leila Fernandez. Oh, she beat Mayuka Uchijima on that one as well, and Diana Schneider. So Diana Schneider has actually had a superb year on the WTA Tour, won a bunch of titles. And yeah, she obviously got to the WTA finals in Riyadh and got all the way to the final, which honestly, first time at that event to do that is great. And she beat Rybakina, who is of course a tremendous player, and beat Paulini. Although she lost to Sabalenka, she beat Krejcikova in the semi-finals, who is obviously an excellent player herself and former French Open winner. And in the final she lost to Coco Gauff, but it was probably one of the matches of the year as well. And yeah, she had her chances and she came close perhaps she could have served for that match, but ultimately came up short. But I think overall, because maybe there were doubts about whether she could reach sort of that high level in terms of that elite level. But I think this year, some of the players she's beaten in the tournament she's won, obviously an Olympic gold medal is huge. I think, and just the sheer number of matches that she's won overall in the year, especially the Asia Swing as well. I mean, that's it's elite level. She's, especially in that latter half of the year, she increased her serve percentage and the points won on that serve, and generally just getting a bit more out of her strokes as well on the backhand side, and the forehand always is potent, and I think
I'd say I asked you a couple of podcasts back. I think I asked you like what you think her sort of ceiling is. Where can she go? I'm going to reframe that question. What would she need to do in 2025 to be on top of this list a year from now?
That's a great question. Obviously, she has already done brilliantly. She's currently number 5. She's just a few points behind Paulini. I would say she's perhaps arguably the 4th best player of the year. She didn't get any points, remember, for winning the Olympics. It's arguably worth as much as a Masters, if not more. And then what I would say is that she needs to. I would say she's come close already to winning a Masters. She needs to start winning some of these big tournaments, the slams. Obviously, winning a slam would definitely. I think that would have to. That would cement her place probably, but that is not an unreasonable aim. Now, obviously, she has the ranking. I think for her the biggest thing is probably. She's got to get over that hurdle of Sabalenka. She's shown that she can beat Swiatek. She's beaten Rybakina. You're going to have other players, perhaps stepping up. She beat Andreeva, but Andreeva's so young. She is going to be someone that's going to be coming up. There's a bunch of other players yet that she's going to be competing with. So I think from her point of view, she's going to want to say, and probably in that clay season is where she really wants to make up ground. She didn't, it was fairly underwhelming this year. Obviously, she did well on clay in the summer eventually, but that normal spring clay period, she's got a great opportunity to do well, in Madrid and Rome. And then, of course, only reaching 3rd round at the French Open, she can definitely do better there. So if she can, I would say that next year she's going to be seriously, in her mind, she was going to be going to try and win a slam. I mean, that's how she's got to be thinking. But the big tournaments, not Masters, I should say, the 1,000 tournaments, she is got to be winning these. I think that's the next stage in her progression, and also doing well, like in the clay where I think she really can excel. And then, of course, she can do well in hard courts as well. But I think she just gets it. The gold medal clinches it, and the way that she finished off the year, I think was, she's arguably the 2nd best player in the world in that latter half of the year. Because I mean, obviously, we had Swiatek and Rybakina out, right? So they weren't
absence,
but so there's that, and it's going to be interesting for sure to see how she does next year.
Well, congratulations to Zheng Qinwen. She is number 1 in the Tennis Asia 10 for 24. Tennis never stops, as we say. Obviously, the next gen still going on at the moment. We've even got the ITF never got the memo about needing the end of the season. They're playing in Bali right now. I see poor old Chung Hyun. He won the first set earlier on this week and went down in 3 sets. Again, what are your tennis plans for the next couple of weeks?
Well, I suppose the next few days I'll be watching this next gen finals, which is going to be interesting for sure, which we should say, by the way, is being held in Asia, the far western Asia, right? And, in Jeddah, right? Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And we have now got a result here, by the way. It seems that Luca van Asch has defeated Zhang in 4 sets. That was a 4-3, 2-4, 4-1, 4-3 victory. So it's confusing, is it? Because they play a tiebreak at 3-all. So, yeah, that was a 7-5 in that final tiebreak in just under 2 hours. That match was. So, but Zhang still has an opportunity to get through. And yeah, I suppose I'll be keeping an eye on Chung because he will be continuing to play in Bali for the next 2 weeks, I think. And let's see if he can finally get some wins under his belt. And then also, I suppose there's some ITF events and stuff going on, but there's I think for the other big news is that the Hong and Kwon have gone to the army, the military service. It's been confirmed they will start, I think, the 13th of January. So, and we've got at the end of January, beginning of February, the Davis Cup qualifiers. So that leaves a big gap in the Korean Davis Cup team, where who is going to play, because Hong and Kwon have done so well for them. That's why they are in that stage, because they beat Poland. They won all their matches, and the doubles. They're sorted for doubles because they've got Nam Ji Sung, who can play with either Song or Chung Yun Sung. I think the problem is who's going to come in the singles. And
the singles. Yeah.
I noticed in that same tournament there's a 20-year-old Korean Shin Woo-bin playing, who seems to have picked up some form this year. So he's also fairly tall as well, which obviously helps in this sport. 6'2" or something like that. So perhaps he's someone that's going to want to step in. But there remains, of course, Jared Campagnoli as well. And I should say as well, we've also got from that draw, we've not talked about it. The Japan's going to be playing Great Britain in Japan, so that's potentially quite exciting. Both of them, they've got Nishikori back in Japan. And they've got a decent little squad of players, obviously Nishioka, and then they've got some doubles players as well, Taro Daniel, and then you've obviously got great players from Great Britain now with Draper, Fernley, and these guys, and then we've also got, I think who was drawn? It was USA for Chinese Taipei, their vital side. So I think that's going to be there as well in Taipei. So potentially interesting to see how that goes. And that's obviously a bit of time away. Obviously, probably after the next gen finals, I will be taking a little bit of a step away from the tennis, but then keeping one eye forward, because we've obviously got Hong Kong ATP and then the Australian Open. You don't get much time to get your breath back.
Tennis never stops. Tennis never stops. For now, we will though stop. The number 1 on the 10 for 2024 from Tennis Asia, Zheng Qinwen. Eddie, well done with all of your analysis over 2024, and looking for more in 2025. A Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Indeed. Merry Christmas.
here.